is and how difficult it is with our dollar not stretching near as far, the reasons behind all that. And, most people agree that Pete Ricketts, my opponent, he represents corporate America, right? He is corporate America, and I represent the workers. So the stage is set for the billionaire versus a mechanic, and I'm loving my odds.
Okay, folks, on this Wednesday, this hump day, to help us get over the hump is a returning champion, a man who is very much meeting the moment for independent Americans and independent veterans around the country. I told you years ago he was the tip of the iceberg. Well, now he continues to be the tip of the spear, and the iceberg of hundreds of veterans around the country are following his lead. He is a Navy veteran. He is running as an independent to be the next senator from the great state of Nebraska. Returning to Independent Americans, the great and powerful Dan Osborn is back on Independent Americans. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Paul. It's good to be back.
You've been getting after it, man. You've been busy.
Yeah. We've done over 40 town halls. We did 200 in 2024. We're hopefully break that record. Just getting out and talking to people, and that's what it's all about.
You got some good numbers that we're going to get into in a minute. I'm going to talk about your fundraising numbers, your polling numbers, the reaction you're continuing to get from people after running, a race we covered. You came on to talk about it with Deb Fisher. Want to talk about ICE, want to talk about Epstein, want to talk about whatever happens in the next 5 minutes here that Trump could kick off. But let me ground us in the question I ask of everybody, Dan. Where are you and how are you? Because you're not in Nebraska today.
No, I am not. I actually was a keynote speaker at a UAW conference, United Auto Workers, and got to have a beer with Sean Fain. That was pretty cool. So yeah, I'm in Washington D.C. right now, our nation's swampy capital.
I always want to ask. I mean, you don't live there. You haven't spent a whole lot of time there over the years. What's it feel like to be there?
I like the city. It's very vibrant. I can go out to dinner now. I was never able to do that before, so that's something that's new in Washington D.C. I'm being facetious, of course, but no, I do. I like the fact people out on the streets. You don't get that. It's a very very good town for walking and biking, and Omaha, where I live, isn't.
Hmm. And how you feeling in these crazy times, man? There's a lot flying at everybody, and we're all dealing with it differently. You're out there meeting with people, talking to people. How are you doing in this wild moment in our nation's history where you were trying to meet that moment?
Hopeful, because the people that I talk to when I go across Nebraska, and we talk a lot about agriculture, but we talk a lot about the cost of life right now and how high it is and how difficult it is with our dollar not stretching near as far, the reasons behind all that. And, most people agree that Pete Ricketts, my opponent, he represents corporate America, right? He is corporate America, and I represent the workers. So the stage is set for the billionaire versus a mechanic, and I'm loving my odds.
So this is kind of the people's fight. That's why I've said a lot of the independent candidates are the people's champions. And there's a lot of people who are pissed off with the corporate greed and the billionaires and the extortion and the feeling like they are above accountability, like they have absolute power and it seems to be gaining while the little guy and gal is getting crushed. So I want to use that to pivot into what I think is our top topic. We talked a bit about this with Chuck Todd recently, but there is this groundswell across this country of people who feel like the system's rigged and they're punching back. And I don't know if there's an issue that embodies it more than Epstein. You've been really outspoken about the fact that the Epstein files are wrong. You've highlighted that Pete Ricketts, your opponent, voted against releasing the Epstein files. There was some breaking news that you canceled a fundraiser that was connected to somebody who was in the Epstein files. I give you credit for that, right? You could have just done the fundraiser, but you said, no, I'm not going to be associated with anybody who's associated with Epstein. But I think this is a really important issue for the country beyond politics because it's about whether or not people rape little girls and can get away with it, right? And you've been taking it head on. So I just want to throw you the ball and ask you to react to the latest Epstein developments, and contrast how your opponent, who is an incumbent, very rich guy, has been dealing with the Epstein files.
Yeah. Well, it's simple. If you violate children, you should get your day in court, and you should rot in hell after that. I mean, it's really that simple for me. I don't care if it's somebody that I align with politically, or if it was my best friend. I mean, if you're a part of that, and you get found guilty, man, you should just go to jail. I don't understand why people are buying into the politics behind a lot of this, man. It's accountability. We all are held accountable for our own actions in our daily life, and they should be too. Just because you got money, you should it doesn't mean you can do what you want.
When you're on the road, you're hearing from a lot of people. Nebraska's a red state, right? And you're hearing from Democrats and Republicans. You're probably attracting a lot of Republicans in a way Democrats can't, and you're obviously independents. Can you give me a sense of what you're hearing from people in Nebraska about the Epstein files in particular? Because I think sometimes the media loses track of it, but I feel like the people across the country really care about it.
Well, whenever we do a post or anything about it, you of course you look at the comments. It's hard not to, right? But the internet's not a real place. I've never had anybody speak to me face to face the way people talk in the comment section online. But it seems like you have one side. It's like, oh, why are you talking about the Epstein files all of a sudden? You didn't care back then. Well, you know what? As information comes to us, we have to talk about these things. You can't just ignore it. Just because I didn't talk about it in 2022 online doesn't mean it's not important, right? Um, and anybody that's defending it, that just blows me away. I don't know why anybody would be defending child molesters and children, trafficking children. And just, what kind of world, upside down world are we living in? This is like an episode of Stranger Things here. And but yeah, and I mean, but the people, I think most people are where we're at. Release the whole dang thing. Protect, obviously, the innocent, and send the people to jail that need to go to jail.
Do you think most people in Nebraska know that Senator Pete Ricketts voted to not release the Epstein files?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I sure hope so. And if I have anything to say about it by the time this is all over, they will know. They should know. They deserve to know. Because this is the guy who has taken $434,000 this cycle from corporate PAC money. I've taken zero. Right, that's who he represents. He represents the elite that think they can get away with everything. I've had over 25,000 individual donors. My average contribution still remains $43. So my campaign is powered by the people. His is powered by corporate America. But that's not what it says in the Constitution. It's a government by and for the people, not corporations and the 1%.
I think Epstein is one of those issues where independents are in a unique position to lead because there's Democrats and Republicans in the Epstein files, right? And both of them are trying to protect their assets for different reasons and cover for donors or for corporate leaders. Bill Clinton's going to have to testify, right? And obviously Trump is potentially involved here. So I think it's a really important issue for independents and independents like you to say, look, man, everybody should be held accountable. And because you don't have that loyalty to a party, you're in a unique position. So let me ask you to go deeper into another issue that's pissing off, I think, much of the country, most of the country, which is ICE, right? Another opportunity, I think, for independents to uniquely lead here. ICE is ripping across this country. They're unaccountable. They're, I would argue, unconstitutional. They're not wearing badges. They're wearing masks. And every day we hear news stories and get new video about how they're violating the rights of Americans. Can you just react to the latest developments from ICE? The funding fight is happening in the town you're in right now. What are your reactions to where ICE is right now, and how do you see it impacting Nebraska?
Yeah, I think in regards to that, what happened in Minneapolis, the killings were absolutely wronged, and those agents need to be accountable for their action. You're a combat veteran, And when you're overseas serving in a combat situation, you have rules of engagement. And there's clear and present danger that has to exist before you pull your trigger. Uh, and even if there's pop shots coming at you from a crowd, you're not allowed to pull your trigger until you have that clear and present danger and that go ahead to fire back. Uh, so they are operating without accountability right now, and that's scary, right? And as far as the funding goes, I don't know how you call yourself a true conservative if you're okay with $30 billion going to ICE in this big beautiful bill, right? Uh, it was 8 billion and 10 billion. Now it's 30 billion. Like, that's insane. That's an insane number. I mean, that's more than the entire military of Poland, who lives right next to Ukraine. So what is happening here? Yeah, so we have to dial that back. We have to dial in just out of control government spending in general, and that's certainly included in it.
Yeah, I think it's encouraging to hear a lot of independents talk about spending, talk about the deficit, talk about taxes, right? Which often I think gets pushed aside. But coming back to the issue of ICE, we had Senator Ruben Gallego on yesterday. He's pushing back against funding ICE right now. This is the debate in the Senate. I assume Pete Ricketts is going to vote in favor of funding DHS and continuing ICE as planned. If you were in the Senate right now, where would you be on this debate happening, a couple blocks from
No,
where you are?
I would be negotiating, right? That's what it's all about. And I think as an independent, I would be uniquely positioned to be able to negotiate with both sides, strike a deal that the American people can live with, because that's what compromise is, right? I don't agree with shutting down the government over this, simply because, look, we have air traffic controllers, we have FEMA, uh, we have National Guard members serving the military people serving the country that deserve their paychecks that they work hard for every day. So it's about negotiating, about getting it done, and we have to stop this red versus blue, my team versus your team. This weird mentality that is our politics these days, and I think that's what my campaign represents, is bringing people together. Because in 2024, you would drive across Nebraska and you would see Trump signs next to Osborn signs. Go a block over and you would see Harris signs next to Osborn signs. And, that's what I was really proud of. And we're continuing to do that by talking about paycheck populism, right? It's about how all this affects. I mean, most of us, we probably just see what's happening on our television screens in the comfort of our own living room. It's not directly affecting all of us, but what is directly affecting it is our paychecks, right? When we go to the grocery store, I just learned of an issue just today that I want to talk about: this electronic labeling in grocery stores, where they can actually change the price of your groceries in real time. So if you're a working person, you can't go grocery shopping during the day. They'll jack the prices up on premium hours, right, or prime time hours for shoppers. If you have a baby at home, this new AI technology that they want to use will identify you, and it'll jack the price of your diapers up before you go and you buy them. And this is something people need to know about, and we have to fight this stuff, because there is a dollar crisis for me and my family. I don't buy beef anymore. I walk right on by that beef section, because I still look down at the steak, and I'm looking at $20 a pound, and I'm like, nope, can't do it. It's not in the
Yep.
cards for me and my family. So these are the issues that are transcend party lines, that are bringing people together, because quite frankly, it affects all of us, unless you're Pete Ricketts and your dad has $4 billion.
And owns the Cubs? Does he own the Cubs?
They do. And when I just
Chicago Cubs.
learned
For people who don't know, the baseball team.
the
They
baseball
own
team,
the
yeah,
Chicago Cubs. That's how
yep.
rich this guy is.
And what I found out the other day, talking to people, after the Ricketts family bought the Cubs, they immediately made it so, they bought those buildings across the street where people like to watch the game,
Yeah.
and they put the billboard in front of the bleachers. So, they want to squeeze every dime out of you, and ticket prices are through the roof. Are the Chicago Cubs better now because of it? No. It's making it so I can't afford to take my family to a Cubbies game, and I love the Cubs. It's what these corporations are doing. They're consolidating all of our industries and squeezing us for every last dime.
It's a lot about what's wrong in America. And the pricing issue, it's like surge pricing around food, right? Which is really diabolical and
Yeah.
insane. It'd been ruled illegal in many places around ride shares and things like that. So I think it's an important issue to you for you to push back on. Let me ask you, just going back to ICE for a second, because this is also front and center. I think the culture is rotten. I don't think it's salvageable. I don't know if it is. And I asked Senator Ruben Gallego this yesterday, but I would ask you as well. Should Kristi Noem go? Would you think she should resign?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And here's why. There's no independent investigations going on here. If there's a officer, police officer involved shooting in Omaha, that person goes on an administrative leave. There's independent investigations into this that are unbiased, and if that officer is found guilty, he loses his job or goes to jail. And then she comes out 30 minutes later and calls somebody a domestic terrorist without having information in front of her to prove that. That's reckless and that's dangerous. And yeah, she should be held accountable as well.
So let's talk about accountability at the elections and go below the radar here. Unfortunately, this is below the radar, but I don't think it should be. Your campaign is surging. The latest polls I saw have you, neck and neck with Pete Ricketts in December. Was at poll 48-47. You guys put out information that you raised over $2 million so far, over 700,000 in the last quarter of 2025. That's a big number. And I think you smartly have put out that your average donations are very small. I think you said $37, right? Versus Ricketts, who's talking about tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a real contrast here. But also, as we talked about years ago when you first came on this show, you've inspired a lot of other people to run. Independent Veterans of America supported you, and we're going to probably support you again. We will support you again, and we're looking at 100 other candidates, and we've got now I think 7 independent veterans who are running for Senate, and every one of you can be a fulcrum. We've talked to Todd Achilles and Ty Pickens and Brian Bangs, and there are more coming. So, can you talk about where the campaign is now and how, even more than last time you ran, I think it's much bigger than just about Nebraska? We also had Jesse Ventura on last week. Jesse, reminds people that independents can win. So, can you talk about the latest on where the campaign is and where you see it going in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah. So we've had 4 polls, and thank you for the IVA support as well. We've had 4 polls come out. The first one was all the way back in May, that showed us statistically tied. 2 more polls came out saying the same thing, and here just recently, we haven't released it yet, but it says the same thing. We're statistically tied. But after that first poll came out, that prompted Ricketts to then spend to date over $2 million in the state, which is unprecedented in Nebraska, on TV ads and radio ads and text blasts, advertising at Nebraska football and volleyball games. And speaking of upside down worlds, how the heck is Indiana a football team and now Nebraska is a basketball team? This is crazy.
I want to come back to that when we
All
get to
right.
something good. But you're absolutely right. It is a little upside down. But if we were going to have a football team for independence, wouldn't it be Indiana? Wouldn't it be Indy? Right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to argue with that. I'm not going to argue with that at all. It was fun watching them this year for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And
But
you
you
got you
guys are
got to
like
love you got to
Indiana.
love
You're
that
you're you're like
underdog.
the Indiana politics. You're coming from behind, and now you're neck and neck with the big boys.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, going back to Ricketts, it prompted him to spend over 2 million in the state, and it hasn't moved the needle. And we haven't hardly spent anything. I'm investing heavily in our field program and personnel, because we're going to win this thing on the ground. Yeah, I'm going to want to be able to compete, of course, with Ricketts, for media points. It takes money to do that, for sure. I mean, like I said, his dad's got $4 billion. You could just give him a blank checkbook. Here you go, kid. Uh, but yeah, so again, the average donation is very low. I'm proud of that. Like I said, over 25,000 donors, individual donors. Ricketts 1,000 individual donors. So, that's the contrast, man. People should just look at that right there and just be like, okay, I I know who's going to be on the side of the people and who's going to be on the side of the corporations.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to look at the last race too, right? Because you put up a good fight against Deb Fisher. You were under resourced. People didn't know who you were, and you still, came pretty damn close. And I remember talking to Bob Kerrey about it, and he says, "Boy, it's going to be a damn shame if Osborn loses because we don't have another 5 million, right?" And now we're in a situation where it's only February. You are going to have to compete with him on some level on spending, right? He's going to try to blow you away and just overspend. But people now know who you are. They know that you're viable. They know that Ricketts is vulnerable. And I think they also can see how the world would have been different if you beat Deb Fisher, right? You would have been arguably the most powerful person in the Senate right now.
Yeah,
We
can I
talked
can I
about
touch
Pete
on that
Hegseth.
real quick?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
That big beautiful bill,
Yeah,
it wouldn't pass. I mean, it was a tiebreaker. JD Vance broke the tie. If I was in the Senate, I would have never passed that bill the way it looked. With the DHS funding and the lion's share of the tax cuts going to like the Ricketts family. I mean, his family is probably going to make $300 million by the time this big beautiful bill's done in tax cuts. And yeah, the things that they tout, no tax on tips, that's a great idea. The bill falls short, of course, and it's only for 3 years, and no tax on overtime. Man, I've been saying those things from the beginning. But yeah, that in that form, that's how important these elections are. That we raise awareness, especially these winnable ones. Yeah, so I just wanted to
yeah.
pull
And
that
I think
out.
I talked to you about this last time. You said you would have been a no vote on Pete Hegseth. You're a Navy veteran. You understand, what he could have done. Now he's doing it, right? I mean, and then there are other key votes like the War Powers Act, right? Congress is laying down their constitutional responsibility on everything from Venezuela to Iran. And now we have news today that an airport in Texas is shut down because Mexican cartels may be throwing drones across the border. So I've said this, Trump might hit Mexico by the time this posts. That's entirely possible. But can you talk about the danger of Trump with no constitutional guardrails, right? He's all gas, no brakes, literally hitting multiple countries, and Congress is not even trying to slow him down. So if you're in the Senate, what are you going to do on these overreaches by the president, especially when it comes to regime change wars that he's talking about everything from Iran to Cuba?
Well, you signed on the dotted line. I've signed on the dotted line, and if I get elected into the U.S. Senate, I will then take another oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. We're 250 years into this American experiment, and at the foundation of that is our Constitution. And we are seeing constitutional rights get violated in Minnesota. I mean, that's our inalienable rights. This is what makes America great, is that document, and so many other people have tried to emulate that as their form of government as well, because the framers of that Constitution understood. Right there, they'd be rolling over in their grave right now if they saw what was happening. So yeah, power needs to be with the Congress as dictated through the Constitution of the United States, and everybody that is sworn to uphold it needs to do that. And if they're not doing it, it's up to the people to understand. And everybody talks about term limits and this and that. Well, we have free and fair elections, and it's up to the people to get the people out of office that aren't upholding the Constitution of the United States.
Dan, this week with Independent Veterans America, we launched a new campaign targeted at veterans that said, "Don't join ICE, join us." We're trying to encourage veterans to get involved in their communities, to do what I think is a truly patriotic thing, and continue to serve and be aligned with independent veterans. That you don't have to be a Democrat or Republican, and if you're able, and willing, run for office locally, like you have. Jesse Ventura issued a powerful kind of call to arms to other veterans to step up and run like he has. He showed it's possible. You've shown it's possible. There are some vets that are still kind of on the sidelines. They're thinking maybe I could run this year. I'm not sure. Do you have a message for all the independent vets out there that are thinking about running for office this year?
Now is the time, and we're running out of it. So if you're even thinking about it, get a hold of me, and we can have meetings. I have meetings with people almost every day that are either running for local dog catcher or the house. And I sit down with them, and I sit down with my wife and their wives to talk about the hardships of how hard it is to run. But you know what? Doing the hard thing is the right thing. And we need people to step up that have served this country, that love this country, and love the basis of its foundation, and want to do something about it. So my message to them is if you're still on the fence about it, get a hold of me. Um, go to my website, osbornforsenate.com, and email me on there, and let's set up a time to talk, and we'll figure out a way to get you some foundational support as well, and some help.
Here, here. That's a good man. And reach out to us at Independent Veterans
Yep.
of America as well. Reach out to me. We got some tools, we got the resources, help you get trained up. And if you don't want to run, we still need you fighting for things like, equal voting opportunity for independents with open primaries, fighting for other veterans who are stepping up to run, not just Dan, but across the country. It's what's necessary. All right, Dan, I got to let you go in a minute, but first, let's go to something good. We always end with something good, and I'm going to do a twofer here. First of all, JD Vance is telling Olympians to shut up, that they shouldn't speak out. And I think that's deeply un American. But they continue to speak out in a way that I think is deeply American. And I want to shout out one of them, Jessie Diggins, who is the most decorated cross country skier in U.S. history. And she posted a message right before the Olympics that I want to read. Excuse me, I've been reading a couple of these, but she wrote this: I want to make sure you know who I'm racing for when I get to the start line at the Olympics. I'm racing for an American people who stand for love, for acceptance, for compassion, honesty, and respect for others. I do not stand for hate or violence. I decided who I'm racing for every single day, and I want to live up to my values. For everyone out there caring for others, protecting their neighbors, and meeting people with love, every single step is for you. You are the ones who make me proud to carry the flag, and I hope I can bring you joy over these next few weeks. That's Jessie Diggins, one of the great American athletes. She is something good. And before I wrap on something good, I'm going to shout out your Nebraska basketball team, man. They're 21-3. They're number 7 overall. I mean, they're competing with the likes of Michigan and others. If folks haven't been watching, Nebraska basketball is for real, and there's something good. But over to you, my friend, Dan Osborn.
Yeah.
What do you got? There's something good.
Yeah, that's a badass group of guys. The something good that I want to state and put out into the ether is, I mentioned earlier, the internet's it's not a real place. We don't even know half of these are bots, or if they're Chinese bots. We don't even know, right? But you go online and you look at comment sections, and you are thinking, man, we are in trouble and we're divided, and we are. I'm not trying to downplay that, but in my experience in going around Nebraska and knocking doors, I knock on doors that people still have Trump signs out, and we just go and knock on all the doors and talk to all the people. And when you actually start talking about the issues and policies, we agree on a heck of a lot more than we disagree. So keep the faith, keep the hope going, because there's a heck of a lot more of us voters than there are billionaires in the world too. That I believe those are the ones that are truly trying to keep us divided, and they'll come up with any topic to keep us not talking about the Epstein files and everything else that they're on the chopping block for. So keep the hope, keep the faith, because we are pretty united, I think.
Here, here. That is something good. There's a lot more of us than there are of them. And this is kind of like a preview. Dan Osborn's in Washington this week, fighting a good fight and representing independence. And imagine how much different it's going to be if he's there a year from now as a United States Senator representing the great state of Nebraska, and representing 45% of Americans who are independents, and representing Democrats and Republicans who want to meet this moment. So you continue to inspire, my friend. Thank you for leading the fight. Thank you for inspiring other independents, especially to meet this moment. Rooting for your Huskers here, and I hope you'll come back and join us again on the show soon and give us an update on how things are going, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
You got it, man. Give him hell out.
Archipelago, he tells me the left and right are dreams for those without a clue. And when you wake, it's time to grow. And it's not cool to believe in school, but if I can say one thing, I've seen the children of the revolution and the good trouble they can bring. He says the red and blue are dead and independent is an attitude. An island in the sea of rhetoric and archipelago, he tells me the left and right are dreams for those without a clue. And when you wake, it's time to grow.
Powered by Righteous Media.